Hello, lovelies. Welcome to Horror 421, the podcast, with your hosts, special effects makeup artist supreme, Elena Morales, and your friendly small-town horror author, Charles Campbell. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the frights in this week's episode.
This episode of Horror 421, the podcast, is brought to you by Terror Tour. Music is a killer. Virginia Morgan is the lead singer of a band called the Valley Rats. They have embarked on a regional tour. There is excitement in the air, but there's also something else. One by one, members of the band receive ominous letters at each stop. At first, they think it is a harmless prank staged by a fan. Soon, they learn it is something much more sinister. The band will have to come together to play the show of their lives if there is any hope that they can survive the Terror Tour. Terror Tour can be found at valleyboypublications.com by clicking on the Shop tab. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Horror 421, the podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. He hails from New Zealand, and he is a musician, a guitarist, and currently he's Gin Wigmore's musical director. And I am so happy to have Dave Goodison on the show today. Thank you for being with me today, Dave.
Thanks for having me, Charles.
You're very welcome. I want to get right into it.
Sure.
You've got, and you sent me some good notes to review, and a couple of things really stood out to me. You were on tour with your first band called Enigma, and you opened for Metallica. Now, I want to jump into this because you put a note here.
Sure.
I have a great story to tell about this. We'll get to the other stuff in a few minutes. So, I want to hear about Enigma and how you got hooked up on the And Justice for All tour with Metallica. And from my notes, that was way back in 1989. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm definitely showing my age by revealing that, but never mind, you know. So Enigma was essentially, I think it was my second band. I had my high school band with some buddies, and then it was the next band kind of afterwards. And we're only young, 17, and we were kind of New Zealand's first thrash band,
Okay.
like. Because we were little punk rockers, really, you know. But we also liked bands like Motorhead, Iron Maiden, sort of
Right.
more metal, you know, but sort of high energy. And then and Metallica and Slayer came out. We got right into that stuff, and so we started to kind of emulate that. And we were probably one of the first bands in New Zealand to do so. And with our little demo release and that, we ended up landing the Metallica support slot when they came to New Zealand on the And Justice for All tour. So, of course, we were like totally freaking out, like the happiest kids on the planet, right?
Right.
And so the story, and I'm trying not to go on forever.
Oh, it's okay.
So we were having one of our last rehearsals before. In fact, it was our last rehearsal before the concert. And so we're taking this pretty seriously, you know. And our rhythm guitarist, Pete Hay, doesn't show up. And we're like, what the fuck? And we're like so pissed off at him, you know, like, what the fuck, man? This is their last chance. And sure enough, about 45 minutes later, he shows up with this rather large dude with him. And comes in. We're all just like, where the fuck were you? You know, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, sorry, guys. This is Big Mick. He's Metallica's sound man. And we're all just like, bullshit. What the fuck? And he's like, and he's English. And he goes, yeah, I'm Metallica's sound man. And I was like, well, how the hell did you guys meet? And I was like, at the pub. Because Pete is also English. So it's a very English thing to do, a couple of beers after work. And so Metallica's sound man sat down and watched our rehearsal.
Oh, wow.
And had a couple more beers, and he was like, I like you guys. Tell you what, I'll do your sound for you. And we're like, what the hell? Oh my God, hell yes. And not only that, but he took us to dinner the next night. And he pulls at dinner, he pulls out an American Express gold card, which for 1989 was quite a big deal. There were no blacks or platinum cards by then. It was the original gold, and paid for dinner for us all. And we just like, oh my God, this guy's amazing, you know. And then he said to me, he was like, oh, so what are you guys doing tomorrow night? And I was like, oh, we're probably going to go down and watch a couple of bands at this little club. He goes, "Oh, sweet. Oh, yeah, I'll see if I can bring a couple of the boys along." Oh, yeah, cool. So I told him where it was, and so I get down to this club, and I knew there was going to be a group of us, so I scored this booth, excuse me, in the corner of the room, and I'm sitting there, and this group of girls come up, and they're like, "Oh, can we take the booth? You know, because you're both out." So it was actually, I've got my friends coming, but I was also like, "But you girls can sit here too," you know. So they sat down, and so it sort of started to get quite dark, and I noticed Pete come in and Big Mick, because you know, like I said, he's Big Mick for a reason, right? And you know, I said, "Oh, my friends are here." Next minute, Jason Newstead comes over and goes, "Hey man, I'm Jason," and I'm like,
Oh,
"Hey,"
wow.
and I'm like, sorry, my light nearly fell down with all the excitement, and I'm like, "Yeah, I know who you are, mate," trying to be cool, and
Oh,
and the
nice.
girls are like, "Oh my god, this is crazy," and he squeezes by me and sits down. Next person that comes and sits down, James Hetfield.
Oh,
And
wow.
says, "Hey man, I'm Dave." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I know, I'm Dave, mate. Yeah.
Uh,
Like, I'm just losing my shit right now. You
yeah,
know, when Big Mick had said, like, you know, he was expecting a couple of the guys to come along, I thought he meant crew, not a couple of the band, not
right,
James fucking Hetfield.
right,
You know,
right.
so he proceeds to ask me, I was like, "Oh well, what do you like to drink?" Down here, and I knew that they like German style lagers, and we had one called Steinlager. Still make it to this day.
Right.
And so I was like, "Yeah, Steinlager." He ordered 18 of them for the table.
Jeez.
He did it 3 times.
Ooh. That,
So we had a very good night, and
yeah,
a
I'm
very big hangover the next
I'm
day.
surprised you remember the story.
Oh well, yeah, that was burnt into my mind. It was for a 17-year-old, well, yes, yeah, a kid. It was a mess. Like, I was definitely drinking underage, but never mind
Oh,
about
yeah.
that. You
No, well,
know. So yeah, and they were great to us, and we played. I'll always remember when we played. We did a cover of a Slayer song called Black Magic, and Jason Newsted was side of stage rocking out right up
oh,
the guys
wow.
to it. So yeah, we had, yeah, it was an amazing time.
Yeah, that's something that you'll always remember. You'll take that to the end. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't have a story that cool. I wish I did.
Yeah, that one. And there is a couple of photos floating around. I could probably send you one actually if you want to put it up on the.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
pretty hilarious because, like, it was, you know, pre-cell phone days, and everyone nowadays it'd be like 300 photos document. No, we got like two, I think.
Right,
You know,
right.
so
Yeah, well, that's what you see when you go to concerts now, and you play a lot of shows. You see all the screens pointing at the stage, and folks aren't as engaged as they used to be because they're
it's.
trying to capture every single moment they can. Uh,
I'm so glad that I first went to concerts without that
yeah,
distraction
yeah.
and really lived in the moment and with the band. It's a good documentary actually. It's Oasis at Nebworth,
Okay.
and one of the someone comments on that very topic about, like, this was one of the last big concerts before cell phones really took over and had the cameras, and so everyone was there just in the moment, you know, 250,000 people each night just having a blast.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I kind
Yeah.
of lament that, you know, and I mean, yeah, sure, it's great exposure, you know, when everyone's taking snippets, putting up on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, but you know, there's something is lost, I gotta say.
Yeah. You're right. Remember, well, I'm 54, so I'm a little older than you. Well, I will be 54 in a couple of days.
Oh
But
well, happy birthday, mate.
thank you, thank you.
Does that make you an Aquarian? Does that
I'm a Pisces.
Oh, Pisces. Is Aquarian already me?
I'm a
Sorry,
yeah.
my light almost fell down before, so I'm just going to see if I can fix it because I'm literally holding on to it, waiting for it.
Oh,
Yes,
you're
there it
good.
is. Yes.
But yeah, I remember the concert days with lighters.
The burnt thumbs from
Yeah,
holding on
burnt
to it.
thumbs. Yeah, yeah. So those were the good old days. So yeah,
Yeah, man.
my history of listening to music is long and vast. And as you probably heard on Jen's podcast, I am I do sway toward the female musical artist, but I do listen to a lot of music. Which brings me to something else. I want to know kind of how you got your start into music, because I did listen to Rumblefish pull up to the bumper. I listened to
Yeah,
it in its
yeah.
entirety. And from what I could tell, it was put out in 1991, but it had such an 80s vibe. I mean, it went from like Flock of Seagulls to David Lee Roth with the title track. I could imagine David Lee Roth singing that song. So kind
I
of
did. Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know if you saw the video, but I'm definitely channeling some sort of David Lee Roth guy, in that moment. Um, so yeah, Enigma was the first band, and we were just um, all DIY, just completely DIY, because we were outside of any sort of mainstream or sort of pop play radio. We weren't getting anything.
right.
So, but by the time we put Rumblefish together, that was sort of more around the time bands like Red Hot Chili Peppers, Jane's Addiction, Faith No More were really kind of coming to the fore. And I guess we were kind of channeling that. And Simon Nichols, the bass player, and I, who have been in bands since the time we were 16 together, we were also in Rumblefish together. We were big Grace Jones
Okay.
fans. So yeah, we wanted something funky, but and a cover to play, and so we ended up doing "Pull Up to the Bumper," and that's what we ended up recording as our single, and it did make the charts, which was pretty funny. So I actually recorded the vocals. We recorded the vocals and the lead guitar solo in Phil Rudd, the drummer from AC/DC's studio
Okay,
at the
cool.
time. That was a little tidbit, yeah.
Yeah, well, I like the entire record. I listened to the whole thing, from start to finish, and it just took me through I don't know, memory lane almost, because to me it had a really solid '80s vibe, and I grew
Mm,
up
mm.
mostly in the '80s, so that's
No,
what
I
it.
can understand that for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's
So
what that's what it
yeah,
felt like
so
to me.
yeah, yeah. So uh, Rumblefish, and so yeah, and then after that, sort of some less known bands. I was in a band called Culture Stone. Always original bands. I was
Right.
always doing originals and working as a band, writing the songs together. Um, and then after the next band broke up, I ended up playing bass in a band called the Peter Stuyvesant Hit List, which was a hilarious take on lounge music and cabaret. If you could imagine a cheesy crooner lounge singer doing, and all we did was covers like Engelbert Humperdinck and Tom Jones and Vegas
Oh
era
my
Elvis
gosh.
and stuff. It was hilarious, and dressed in terrible 70s suits with massive wide lapels and
Okay.
stuff.
So you're going, it's not unusual to be
Oh,
loved.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That was a mainstay of the set.
Nice.
And it was hilarious and probably the most fun I'd actually had playing in a band in ages, because there was no pressure. And I actually started to really appreciate the songwriting, of Burt Bacharach, who just
Oh yeah.
died just
Yeah.
recently. Incredible. Like, once you actually learn the songs, you're like, man, these are well written. So I actually
Yeah.
learned a lot about songwriting. Uh, Lights going again, from that period, which I really appreciate. And yeah, so that was a lot of fun. And that continued, well, for many years. Our singer says we haven't actually broken up. It's just we just go on long hiatuses.
Okay.
So so that's cool. We actually did an original album, which I'm pretty damn proud of too. But the original stuff, it was funny. We sort of really didn't know what to do, because there was definitely still a lounge aspect, but we were also trying to be serious all of a sudden. And so I don't think
Right.
it quite worked. It wasn't cohesive, because, we were confused. Like, what are we actually doing,
Yeah,
trying to
you
be?
didn't know what
So,
side of the coin you were on, right? You're
yeah,
want to
yeah.
be serious. Let's be laid back, not so serious. Yeah.
And, a lot of people that would see us doing the cheesy, fun stuff would come along and be like, oh, well, yeah, it's not quite the same. So,
Yeah.
and
Oh
yeah,
man.
yeah, I ended up in back playing guitar in a band called Garageland, who had some big hits in New Zealand, and some success in England as well. So when they returned from England, the English guitarists they had stayed there, so that's when I joined, and Yeah.
Well, it's funny you brought up Garageland because I gave that band to listen, and two songs kind of stuck out to me from what I listened to. Get Some. It put me in the mind, and you might think I'm silly and
Good, because I
crazy.
wrote that one.
Well,
I'm glad you
it
said that.
it put me in the mind, and don't hate me if you don't like this opinion, but it kind of put me in the mind of Jesse's Girl, the old Rick
Yeah,
Springfield
no,
song.
it's got that sort of, yeah, that's, it's built around just a solid riff, the
Right,
da
right.
da da da
Yeah, and
da
that's
da.
exactly. And the other song I liked because it made me feel like I was at the beach. Can you guess what it is? It's a beachy kind of song. Uh,
Oh, oh God, it was, I know the word. Oh God, it's
I'll
been
tell
so
you.
long. Yeah,
It,
you tell me. Yeah.
life is so sweet.
Life is so sweet. Yes,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
With the
So
na 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 na.
I felt like I was
Yeah,
sitting on the beach and the waves were crashing and uh, those are good songs, man. And
yeah.
I'm gonna go listen to more of Garageland.
Jeremy Eads, a very, very good songwriter, really, really talented songwriter. Um, so yeah, I was quite stoked, and I think playing with GarageLand kind of gave me a lift up, because they were quite established and had a good record deal and everything like that. So I started to work with and be around other more professional musicians, which that's when I started getting sort of session work
Yeah,
for the first time, as a guitarist, and so I ended up playing on people's albums and things,
right.
and then I think the next person I really worked with a lot was a woman called and that, you said you gravitate towards the female singer songwriters. Well, this is when I started almost exclusively working with female singer songwriters, so it's quite funny. So, yeah, so I started playing with a woman called Carly Binding, who was actually, interesting tidbit, was part of an all-girl band called True Bliss, and it was the program. It was a television series that basically set up um, all these other reality TV band series. Now, in fact, I believe that Simon Cowell actually bought the rights to it.
Oh wow.
It was like the first one where they got people auditioned and they picked them and then they threw them together as a band and they and then they released an album and toured it and stuff.
That's
So,
pretty cool.
and I believe that, yeah, that was the first, and Simon Cowell bought the rights to it. So it's interesting. It's called Pop Stars.
That sounds about right.
So, yeah, so I played with Carly on her solo stuff after that sort of stuff. She did 2 albums, of which I wrote and played on. So yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to pause this for 1 second. Okay, Dave. Well, there was another song that caught my ears, and it really caught my eye because I watched the video. And being a horror author, it really caught my eye because it had a cool horror element to it. And tell me what you remember about Into the Night from the City Newton Bombers. What can you tell me
Tell
about
you what
that?
I remember about it. Some very unhappy neighbors.
Uh oh.
we we filmed that very late at night out out we were quite far out in the bush and stuff of West Auckland, but there was explosions and gunshots and stuff, so yeah, and it was about 3 in the morning, so we had some pretty unhappy
Yeah,
neighbors.
well,
So
it was a home, it had a home invasion angle,
yeah,
and yeah, and I was like, oh, I didn't expect that, and I was like, okay, so it really caught my attention. So
so the City Newton Bombers was um my first foray back into putting like my own band back together, because I was playing with all these different artists and stuff,
right,
but didn't really have a band of my own. So, and that started at a New Year's Eve party at Bethel's Beach in West Auckland Beach. My girlfriend at the time, we set up this big marquee um, and set up just band equipment, and everyone came and stayed and partied, and it was just an open jam night. And my friend Earl from the Hit List, the Peter Stuyvesant Hit List, and Simon, who had been in Rumblefish and Enigma and Culture Stone with me, were there. And we got up and started playing some old punk tunes with my good friend Matt Rue. And so he sang them, and everybody loved it. And we're like, oh, that was quite good, So we decided to form a band, the City Newton Bombers, and so that's how that came about. And it was pretty much a throwback to old school punk rock bands like the
Oh
Clash,
yeah,
Sex
yeah.
Pistols,
That's
Dead
exactly what I
Kennedys.
what I felt when I listened to it, because I
Yeah,
listened to more than
it's
just that.
what we listened to when we were kids,
Well, the note that I
and
wrote was straight punk.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's no other. It's just old school, just 3 or 4 chords, just and lots of energy and fun. And so Into the Night was we got a video grant from New Zealand on here, which was very nice, and so we recorded. And Into the Night is loosely based on something that happened to Matt, where people broke into his home, or like a home
ooh,
invasion thing, and um, I don't think they were looking for him. They were looking for a flatmate, a roommate of his,
right.
and stuff. But he had to deal with it, and so it kind of inspired the song. So,
Oh wow, wow.
but it was a fun video to shoot, and all puns intended. Uh, yeah, but yeah, like you said, it's a good shootout
Oh
in that
yeah,
one.
yeah,
So
yeah,
those people
yeah.
might want to watch it. It's good fun.
Well, something that I didn't have, I don't have a note here on it or anything. It's something just caught my eye in your background. I see a Clockwork Orange back there.
Oh yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's a
I'm a
great
big.
movie.
Oh yeah, it's a great movie. So you get brownie points from the horror author for that. That's pretty
There
good.
you go. Very good.
And one thing I am curious about, and we have a lot of authors and musicians on this podcast, and I always ask them pretty much the same question. What is your, what is your approach to writing a song? I'm always interested in someone's style of writing, how they get inspiration, and what they pull from to put a story together. Because writing songs is storytelling if you're doing it the way I would like you to do it, instead of something just repeated over and over again. Anyway, but I digress. Um, what is your process when you sit down to write a song for you or someone else?
I guess for me, being a guitarist, first and foremost, it's usually from me sitting down, playing my guitar,
Okay.
um, and coming up with ideas. And, finding a few chords that sound good together, perhaps some sort of rhythm pattern I like. And then it's a it's really about trying to find something that lyrically will kind of emotionally tie in with the chords, like if it's really fast and upbeat and aggressive, well, the lyrics shouldn't be like, "Oh, baby, I love you,"
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it's got to be something a little bit more sort of in your face,
Right.
you know. Um, so that that's probably the way I approach it. I don't know if you can hear the sirens going by. I live next to a fire
It
station, so
oh, it's fine. I'm surprised my dog hasn't interrupted me.
it's New York, so you always
Yeah,
hear
yeah,
sirens going by. So yeah, that would be some people write lyrics, or poetry kind of things. And
right.
they write lyrics, and they tend to work that way first. But for me, being a musician, being as a guitarist, especially, I think that's the way I tend to approach it. Yeah, yeah, and try and find like yeah the emotional pull with the lyrics that suit the
The
tempo and the
music.
style and the music. If you're
Yeah,
playing all minor chords, it's going to sound a bit sadder. So
yeah.
yeah,
Well, my dad, he's pretty good with string instruments. He can basically play anything with strings. I'm no musician at all. Can't play anything, but he tried to give me lessons as a kid, so he can play guitar, banjo, ukulele, whatever has strings on it. He can play it. Anyway, I'm mad at him because I'm not that talented. Uh, but what drew you to play the guitar? Is there a story behind that? What got you into wanting to be a guitarist?
there's a classic photo of me at my brother's 21st birthday. My oldest brother, 21st. I was 6 years old. Quite an age gap.
Oh yeah.
And I'm air guitaring. I'm standing on top of a piano, air guitaring. Now, great parenting to let your 6-year-old kid climb to stand on top of a piano at a party, but
Uh,
hey, it was the 70s, so it was okay. But yeah, and I don't know why, but I was, and my auntie said to my parents, said, "Oh, well, if you don't buy that boy a guitar, I will."
Right.
So they kind of asked me if I wanted to, and I was like, yes. So I think I got my first guitar when I was about 8,
Nice.
and sort of went to for lessons with someone down the road from me where I lived, and that's where that started. It was I don't know if there was like this, oh, I have to play it. It was just something that sort of naturally happened, but it was about when I was more like about 10 or 11 that guitar clicked with me, and you know I didn't need to be told to practice.
Right.
I liked to practice and play and learn.
It
And
wasn't a
it's,
job. It wasn't a task. It was something
it
you
wasn't
enjoyed
like,
to do. Right.
David, go to your guitar practice. No, no one had to tell me. I'd go and do it, So,
Nice.
so it was about then, and then, I sort of, I mean, Jimi Hendrix was. I remember seeing a video of Jimi Hendrix and just being floored that
Yeah.
someone could play like that. And my eldest brother was very heavily into sort of classic rock, Zeppelin,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, Hendrix, of course, and so all that classics, The Who,
Right.
and so that's what I sort of listened to when I was of that age, before I sort of found my own way, which was for me was punk. I was a little rebellious when I was a kid, so it suited my attitude and
Your attitude and energy, right?
temperament. Yeah, so um, yeah, it's interesting. Like my oldest brother actually had piano lessons, and he could play. He's actually quite musically talented, but never sort of really did it. How can I say? Just constantly, and but my grandfather was a very talented musician, and he was a big band leader.
Right.
When he was in the war, actually, he was in the New Zealand Army orchestra, and and he played piano, flute, clarinet. And when he came back from the war, he ended up being a big band leader
Oh,
in
wow.
his hometown of Whangarei. So I'd like to think that maybe I got something from him, because it's neither of my parents play.
Right.
So
Well,
it skipped a generation.
I will tell you, I've been to a few gin shows. Obviously, I haven't been to as many as I want to go to, but you command the stage, man. I'm not just blowing smoke. You are really, really, really good. I love seeing your expressions when you play, and it looks so
Thank you.
effortless. I mean, I know you put in the time and the hard work and all that, but when you make it look easy, you've got something. And every time I see you play, you make it look so easy, and I get so jealous because I can't play anything. But
Well,
uh,
but I mean, that's the practice and the rehearsal is so that you can get to that point where you're not actually really thinking about it. You're being more in the moment,
right,
and I mean, God, we all make mistakes and stuff like that. But I think it's better to be in the moment, giving it your all, rather than standing there like a rock, worried you're going to play a wrong note or something.
Well,
Because
it's I love live music. I love live music, and I love even the little mistakes that are made. And I'm glad you brought that up because it was a gin show a couple of years ago, and I forget which place you guys were playing. You can find the video on YouTube somewhere. But she starts off "Kill of the Night," I think it was, and
yeah, and
yeah,
she's
yeah,
saying the wrong note.
yeah, and you're just like, "It's her birthday! It's her birthday!"
You really can't take that shit seriously.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I,
she was amazing, and you both were laughing. It was so funny. I loved it. I
it's,
loved it.
yeah, I mean, it's all you can do. I was like, what, are you going to be upset? And like, Jenna's also the sort of person where she will stop the song and start again because, she wants to deliver properly for the audience. So,
So was Shirley Manson. I've seen that quite a few times, just so
oh,
you
really?
know.
She
Oh
does it?
yeah,
Yeah,
she'll
garbage.
stop it in a heartbeat, man.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been to two shows where she stopped the song. One, she forgot the lyrics and she had to have Duke kind of roll her in. She's like, oh, okay, okay. And then there was another one where it just didn't sound right from the jump. She just said, stop it. And oh, there was a third. She broke up a fight. So
Yeah, and they're a band that rely heavily on like backing tracks. So
yeah,
you can't just stop the song, pick it up where you left off. You pretty much got to go back to the
yeah,
beginning
yep,
and
yep,
start it
yep.
again. Or
But
else,
she will stop in a heartbeat, man. But
No, that's cool. I like that attitude. It's like, it shows that the performer, they're not a robot. They're human, and also they want to deliver the best. They're not dialing it in. You
right.
know, they're not just like, oh well, that was crap, but never mind. I don't care. I got paid, sort of thing. They care. So
Well, I want to get your take on this. How does it feel to play in front of a live crowd that's really into it? I mean, that looks like it's got to be the best feeling in the world, but I'd like to get it from your perspective, your eyes, when you walk out onto the stage and everyone's kind of buzzing around and feeling excited. What does that do for you?
you already said it's one of the best feelings in the world. For me, it's I absolutely love it. I love the stage. I used to be, I used to get nervous, and that I still get kind of nervous, but it's a different sort of, more like a nervous energy.
Right.
Sort of like, it's just in the end, it's just like, you're sick of waiting. Come on, let's just go. Let's go. Let's just get into it. Because the longer you wait, the worse it is. It's there's nothing like it. Especially when there's that connection between you and the audience. And you can look into people's faces and see how much they're enjoying it, and see them singing along word for word.
Oh yeah.
It's brilliant. You really feel like you're a part of something bigger than yourselves. You're creating something, and it's and you can never, as an audience member, you can't underestimate the power that you have to get the best out of the artist, because we feed off the energy of a crowd.
Yeah, you don't want to come out to a bunch of dead fish. I can appreciate that.
Oh, yes. Yeah, and believe me, I've played the crowd so over, you just like, oh God, just get me off this fucking stage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or just sit down the whole time if it's seated and they're not moving, and you're like, "What the hell?" That happens to me at football games too. It's a
I,
fucking football game. Stand up. But anyway,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I can't say I've ever, played in front of like chicken wire and had bottles thrown at me, but it's probably come close,
oh
especially my
man,
earlier bands, that's for sure.
oh geez, you're talking that Roadhouse shit with Patrick Swayze. Yeah,
Exactly.
nice. I'd go see that.
Yeah,
Oh,
yes, you're a big football fan, aren't you?
oh yeah, yeah. American football,
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
no, no, no,
yeah,
no, no.
well,
I'm glad you.
world over the globe, football is soccer, but here it's
Yeah,
something else. But
it's
yeah.
football's the game you throw ball with your
Exactly.
hand.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
know. It makes
yeah.
total sense.
Yeah, I'm a football nut. So
What's your team again?
okay, well, I have my college team are the Clemson Tigers, so they're the good team. They're the guys that win on a consistent basis. My other team, not
Worth
so
supporting.
much. Yeah, yeah. They're the pro team are the Atlanta Falcons, and I love
Oh,
my
that's right.
yeah.
I thought the Eagles there for a minute, but because of the
No,
bird. But no, no, it's the
no,
Falcons.
it's
Yeah.
the
Well,
Falcons. Yeah.
well. My adopted team is the Buffalo Bills.
Okay, well, that's a good one to be adopted.
Well, yes
Uh,
and no.
yeah.
Yes. They had a
Well,
great year up until that last frigging game, and then they were
yeah,
useless.
well,
But
we've been in misery for 50 plus years, so you're all right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was funny because when I first came over to the States, the first band that sort of we put together for Gin was all based around guys out of Buffalo. They're
Okay.
all living in New York, but they all ended up. So I ended up just surrounded by, and it was, I had just arrived, so it was sort of like my group of friends to start off with. We're all from Buffalo, so I ended up, rather than picking the Giants or the Jets, who both suck. Come
Went with the
on.
Bills. There you go. Hey,
I went the Bills. I
that's
went the
right.
Bills.
That's all right.
Underdogs, mate.
That's all right. Now there is something I do want to ask you about because I think this is amazing as well. A few years ago, I saw the entire thing on YouTube, but you were part of a TEDx presentation in Antarctica, and I've never been to Antarctica, but I would like to know.
Not many people have.
Yeah, but it looked cool. I mean, it looked. Of course, it was cool.
Yeah,
It's fucking
it
cold,
was
but
cool.
it looked.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it looked amazing. And the two songs you sang on stage on the it looked like a very small stage with Jen. I remember Thoughts of You, and I can't remember the other one you sang. But
We
so,
did well. I remember we did four. I think they did. They
oh
only
well,
showed
they
two or
showed
three or
two.
four.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We did Sweet How, Thoughts of You. I know Written in the Water. I think it
Okay.
was written
Well,
written in the
tell
water.
me about that whole experience with Antarctica and the TEDx talks.
talk about a time of year, you know, it wasn't even on my bucket list because I wouldn't have ever thought that Antarctica was even a possibility. I mean, now I think you can pay for some ridiculously expensive cruise out of, bottom of Argentina that comes down, and then you get in little, Zodiac boats that take you to the shore, and you
Right.
jump on, you go, yeah, I've been to Antarctica, and get back on the back. We spent a week down there. And so the premise was it was the 60th anniversary of New Zealand's first permanent base on Antarctica. I mean, I grew up saying Antarctica, but Americans say Antarctica, which is actually correct. So I'm trying to correct myself. So sorry if I do that. And yeah, Sir Edmund Hillary, he was a Kiwi who famously was the first one to climb Mount Everest. And, he went to the South Pole and stuff. And, he established the first permanent base. And so it was the 60th anniversary, and they did it all up. And there's a new base now, obviously. So it was all around that. So as celebration of it, they held TED Talks. And they invited Dan, God, what's his name? He's an astronaut whose story is amazing. He applied 28 times and got rejected 28 times to NASA
wow.
before he got picked. And then he got picked, and he was already in his 40s, and now he's done the most spacewalks outside the shuttle, the most space shuttle trips. Anyway,
Nice.
I digress. You had geologists, and then you had business people, and everyone just talking about various things, but kind of relating it to Antarctica, which was pretty damn cool. And we were there as the sort of the musical component. It was quite interesting because when Gin first got the word that looks like she's going to Antarctica as part of this, we were in Mexico doing the band, in Mexico doing the Corona Capital Festival, and she was like, guys, the most amazing news ever. We're going to Antarctica. We're all just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Yeah, far out here. And then it was like, they were like, oh, no, it's just you. Because
and plus one.
Yeah, well, no, it wasn't even plus one at that stage. Now,
wow.
and it is with reason, because they really strictly manage everything, like fuel, the amount of fuel it takes to fly down there, and everything is weighed to the limit, so they're not taking excess people or equipment. There's no, it wasn't like Jason was with Gin or anything like that. It was just the individuals, and she kind of put her foot down and said, well, I need at least
I gotta
18.
have Dave. I gotta have him.
Which I was very, very grateful for. So I got to go.
That's awesome.
So yeah, what a trip. I mean, the flight down there from Christchurch, New Zealand, is about 8.5 hours in a C-130 cargo plane.
Oh,
This
wow.
does not have seats. It has cargo netting that you kind of sit in for 8.5 fucking hours. And you're dressed in your full gear, survival gear, like your big boots, pants, like jackets, everything, because if the plane goes down, it's no time to put things on.
Right.
It's pretty scary. And there's the point of no return is about 5 hours in, where they don't have enough fuel to turn around and go back. And the weather can change on a dime down there.
Man.
And so it's pretty scary, but we had a great flight down there. It was, when we landed, it was about freezing, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. It was actually colder in New York City than it was there.
Oh, wow.
At that time.
That's surprising, actually.
Yeah. Well, it was the middle of winter, and it was the middle of summer there. So,
okay. Yeah.
And you land on the ice and stuff, and oh my gosh, what an experience. 24 hours daylight.
Oh yeah.
So that took some getting used to. It was remember on the first night there, there's a bar at the base, so kind of went and we had a couple of drinks and bright sunshine, and look, oh, it's 11:30 p.m. better go to sleep because we're up at 6.
Right.
So for training and stuff. So, and they have big blackout curtains. But part of the training was we had to dig like little igloos, half igloo things, and we slept on the ice overnight.
I saw images of that. Yeah, that was crazy.
Again, you're wearing big eye masks and stuff to block out the light, and it was oh man, what an experience. Yeah,
I don't know if I could sleep in that environment, but that sounds pretty damn cool.
It was hard too because just the excitement.
Right.
It's incredibly quiet because once you get away from the base and everything,
right,
there's no sounds because there's no animal life away from the edges of the ice shelves and stuff.
Right.
There's nothing. It's just dead silent, and which is a little spooky. So
I like spooky.
Yeah, I know. I got that.
Well, one other thing I want to go over with you, or I will feel like an idiot. Now, you have been Gin's musical director for 12 years.
Yeah.
I want to know how you got together with Gin. What's the story there? What's the genesis of the Gin and Dave connection?
I've got a story for you.
All right.
No, it was pretty funny. So 2010, I was actually backpacking, and a buddy of mine was playing guitar with her, Brett Adams, and he couldn't do a tour that was coming up, and so he reached out to me and was like, "Oh, hey, are you around and available for this?" And it was literally the tour started 4 days after I landed in New Zealand, back home.
Oh wow!
And I was like, "Well, yeah, I am." Okay. So I ended up so I got introduced, and then funnily enough, a twist of fate, Gin was in New York doing promo at the same time I was and traveling through. So I met up with her and said hi, and at this little event she was doing, and seemed to get on, so it was all cool. So I got the gig, and I got sent the songs, and 2010, I think I had an iPhone 3S or something like that,
Yeah.
And so I had to learn all these songs, and all I had was earbuds and this phone and a Martin backpacker acoustic guitar, and I sat there and did my best to work them out from what I could hear, and then flew in, and then the very next morning I was in rehearsals.
Oh wow!
And we were rehearsing for the tour, but we were also playing at the New Zealand Music Awards in 2 nights' time. And
oh wow!
So no pressure, live audience, 10,000 people and live TV. So it's like, okay. So I really just had to go for it. So I went to rehearsal, and it was great, and I'd worked out all these songs and stuff, charted them. So it's,
right,
it's really just about, and the band was made up of all Australian guys because Gin was living in Australia at the time.
Okay.
So so I didn't know any of them. See, if it was all the New Zealand people, I'd know them, and
right.
I'd feel really comfortable with it. Instead, it was sort of like, okay, I know none of these guys, but that's cool. And I had a big full day of rehearsal, but Gin didn't show up, so I didn't actually get to rehearse with her.
Oh
so
wow!
That was cool. Yeah, it's all good. She'll be there tomorrow. The next day we went in the morning. What was it? Oh gosh, I can't remember. It was, but we had like a half day, and then we went in and did a dress rehearsal at the event center where the awards were, and
right.
So we ran one song where it was "Oh My," and so we did that, and so and it was cool, and it was with Jan, and then the next day, I think we squeezed in another little half day of rehearsal. That's right, we did. Where Jen was supposed to come, she didn't come to that either. Sorry,
Such
Jen.
an irresponsible young lady. Come on, Virginia. What's going on?
Sorry, Jen. I'm really dobbing you in here. But so she didn't show up, but it's okay. We're going through the songs, but I was supposed to do a couple of songs with her as the encore, just acoustically. So I'm like, well, I haven't played these. So, it's all right. We'll do them at soundcheck, because that night was the music awards.
Right.
So, and we played, which for me was a little bit of a nightmare, because we showed up, and the stage manager, and there's actually a video of this performance. You can look it up as it's Oh My and New Zealand Music Awards or something. And it was my first performance with that live, like I said. And the stage manager was like, "It's live TV. Do not make any sound. All your gear is perfect as it was set up and everything." And I'm kind of like, ugh. You always want to just make sure you've got something,
Right.
I was like, okay, all right. So we start Oh My, going away, and Richie was playing the opening line, and I
Right.
come in sort of halfway through the verse, and I come in, and I've got nothing, no sound whatsoever, and I'm just like looking out at the crowd, going, "Cool, this is so cool." So I'm just like kind of miming, like
Right.
and at the same time looking down at my pedal board, clicking on things. Man, I've got
Nothing's
signal.
working.
No, it's all
Okay.
working. This is the thing. It's like everything's powered. I can see, and I'm like,
Okay.
it doesn't necessarily mean everything's working. But everything's powered. So I check everything on my guitar. I'm like, man, this is terrible. I'm going to have to basically just mime my way through. And then and I look over, and Neil, the musical director at the time, was kind of looking at me, and I'm like, I mouthed to him, "I've got nothing." It's like, and I'm like, this is not the start that I wanted. And then, so finally I went over to my amp and I checked, standby's on, everything. And I was like, the volume? Touch the volume. Chunk. There it is.
Oh, man.
Everything's going to be as it was. It's all set up as it. Oh, yeah, really, except my volume's all the
Except
way
your
on zero.
volume. Yeah, he turned it down.
And which kind of made me fume. So I just sort of, all right, I've got sound now. So I just went back and waited for the
Yeah.
next change, and then came in and just acted like nothing happened. But you can actually see in the video, you can see me at one point turning around on stage, looking at my amp, going, what the?
What the
It
fuck's
felt
going
like an
on?
eternity, but really it was probably 30 seconds. But,
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so that was it. That was that. And we went on tour straight out. And that night, Gin won everything. She won all the awards, and had a very good night celebrating. And yeah, we played the first show of the tour the next night. Still didn't get to rehearse those acoustic songs, so they were a bit rough. Probably on both our sides of things. Me being under rehearsed, and her probably being a little hungover. But it was funny. And but then unfortunately she had this throat issue, and she ended up losing her voice after a few shows.
Oh, wow.
And so it got postponed, and then to the point where everyone left. And that was kind of the end of the Australian band. And the next time we got together, it was all New Zealand guys and me. So, and it was quite an involved sort of production. There were lots of video cues and things like that, and I was the only one that knew them. So I sort of I de facto went into the role of sort of like telling everything what was happening. And with the New Zealand band, I don't think there was no real musical director. It was more after I came to New York and moved away, and then I really took over and put the band together for her, the US band for her, and sort of took off from there. But 12 years later, thick as thieves.
Still going strong. That's awesome. That's
Give each other
awesome.
grief all the time. Have good
Oh, yeah,
laughs. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm excited about the new record coming out, so
Yeah.
hopefully that'll be out soon.
Yeah. Well, we're playing Someone's Gonna Die tonight down in New Zealand, which, I mean, God, it's Thursday night here now. I think you're airing this tomorrow.
Yeah,
So
on
I
Friday.
leave Saturday and be down in New Zealand for the tour for 5 weeks.
Yep. Well, I wish I
Looking
could
forward
go.
to it.
That sounds like it's going to be a ton of fun. And yeah, man, I love the new song. I really do. It's so catchy. It's an earworm.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, it's good because I like the way it's kind of got a bit of a Kill of the Night vibe to it. So
Yeah.
it's a little familiar, but I think it's a bit more sort of almost 70s glam rock. sort
Yeah.
of vibe, you know, but yeah, T-Rex, you know, sort of, I don't know, something like
I don't
that,
know.
which I
It
like.
just keeps playing in my head. I mean, it gets you in your head and then it stays there for a while. But I love it. I love it. So
As a lot of her songs do, right?
yeah. Well, I'm so biased. It's ridiculous. So you can't really talk to me. I got
Oh, it's
gin.
not like there's a couple of pictures on the wall.
Yeah. Well, I got a Shirley Manson and a couple of gins. I got a garbage wall over here, a gin wall over here. My wife thinks I'm ridiculous, but that's all right.
I got, well, you know, there you go. I've got a picture of the band.
There you go. That's cool. That is so
That
cool.
was, yeah, that was a good, it was we toured, we were on the inaugural flight in New Zealand. We had done a tour in New Zealand. Air New Zealand did the inaugural flight between Auckland, New Zealand, and Houston, Texas. So we were on it. We played at the party and everything like that. So that's where that silly photo's from. We're all wearing cowboy hats and we're trying to look really cool. And then there's Tito, no cowboy hat, grinning eye, and it's Tito.
Oh, that is cool. Yeah, well, I'll tell you a quick story about Tito. In 2016, you guys tour so much, you probably don't remember this, but I'm going to remind you. You stopped at a little tiny little bar of a club in Columbia, South Carolina. Do you remember that? You
I
do?
think, yeah, we've played Columbia a couple of times,
Yeah, it
but
was a New Brooklyn
it's
Tavern
yeah,
in,
I think I remember
in
that. Yeah.
2016. Well, that was my first show, Gin show. So I'm there listening. And I wasn't sure if she was going to come out or not after the show, but I'm standing over there after the show. Tito walks out back and he's drinking a beer or whatever. I can't remember exactly what he was doing, but I meandered over and I was talking to him. And he told me, he said, "Well, if you want to see Jen, she's going to come in the front door in about 10 minutes." And everyone else was in the back. And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, I'm not bullshitting you." I said, "Okay." So I go to the front. And about 5 minutes after that, she comes walking in the front door. So I was like, "Tito's my man."
I love that man. He's
He's an
yeah
amazing drummer. Yeah.
uh, yeah. I seriously think he's the best I've ever played with. You know, I mean, I played with a lot of good drummers, but Tito plays with Stephen Pardine. For those that don't know, with such a fluidity, and he's so musical.
It's
You know,
fluidity
like
and ferocity. I mean, because he can,
oh
dude,
yeah.
when he gets
But
into it,
but as you know, when he's playing, he's almost dancing behind the
yeah,
kit.
yeah.
The way that's what I mean. He's oh gosh, he's so musical and like because he's also a classically trained pianist. He plays great guitar. He writes and releases his own music, which is fantastic.
Oh,
So
we got to
go
plug
check
him
that out.
too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, yeah. No, I just saw him in Rocco actually just just over a week ago. We went skiing
Oh,
together. So it
cool.
was the first time we'd all hung out together in a while. So it was so cool.
Well,
I'm
all right.
glad to see he's alive and well. So
Yep.
because I want to tell you about this book right here, mate. So first of all, thank you very much for my copy. Um, I read it. Sat down and read it in one sitting. I was on a flight over to Denver, and I started and didn't stop. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. It had me on the edge of my seat. I mean, maybe I've got a vested interest in it. I
Yeah, yeah.
don't know because there might be
Well,
a character loosely based on
it's
me,
no,
but
yeah, it's no secret to people who know me who the characters are based on, but I put a southern spin on all you guys. You're all from the valley, from where I'm from. But yeah, Dave was the inspiration for a character named, what was his name?
Dave
Dave.
Woodson,
Yeah, Dave.
Dave Woodson.
Yeah, Dave Woodson. Yeah. See, I stretched on that one.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think the drummer might be called Tito, right?
yeah, Tito, and there's another bass player called Mark. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Where
Yeah,
do you
yeah,
get these ideas from, eh?
yeah. I don't know, man.
No,
I
but
don't know.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So congratulations, man.
Well,
You're real serious congrats. It's
I appreciate
I think
that.
you should be proud of it. And yeah, I want to ask you, where'd the horror thing come from? What got you into horror?
Oh, geez, man. I grew up a horror kid. So my stepmother, when I was a little boy, she used to take the kids to the video rental store, and we would get shit ton of horror movies, and we would go back to my dad's house and pop them in the VCR and watch them until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So that got me into horror. Now, this is the funny thing about horror, and I've said this before on the podcast. When I'm a child, I mean 9, 10, 11 years old, we're popping in Friday the 13th, and I can watch Jason hack up anyone on the screen. But if tits come out, this blackboard comes in front of the television, so you can't see tits, but you can see them chop someone's head off, no problem.
It's that reminds me of something really funny. So, you might have heard of a band called Crowded House,
Oh yeah,
right? Yeah,
oh yeah, yeah.
New,
Everybody knows it.
New Zealand singer-songwriter, Neil Finn. I think one of the best songwriters ever.
Yeah, they were just at Bourbon and Beyond.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw him there.
Well,
Yeah,
sort of.
sort of. Yeah, yeah.
Him and
Yep,
him and his son Liam were there, but
Yep.
it was a bit of a shame. Well, I was at Bourbon.
I knew you were.
Actually, too. Yeah, I was working with someone else. So, what was I going to say? So
You're talking about Crowded House.
I can't remember the song, but they had a video, and it was, I think it had something to do, maybe something like slightly crucifixion based. I think, and in England, so in the same video, it had sort of a nail going through a hand,
Right.
as well as some breasts.
Oh.
In the US, it wouldn't get played because of the breasts, exposed breasts, and in the UK, it wouldn't get played because of the nail. So it's like, I found that kind of ridiculous and funny. So.
Yeah. Well, and on the writer's side, I was a Stephen King and Dean Koontz kid, so the first Stephen King book I read was Carrie. So it kind of went from there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm no horror aficionado. For me, it was. I think the very first horror that I really got into was Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead.
Yeah. Well,
because
I love
it's
that
because it's kind of silly, and I mean, I've never really gotten into gore, like stuff, because to me, I just, I guess I'm more into the suspense, more sort of ones, and stuff like that. But I really love the Evil Dead series because it was just so.
Oh yeah, I run the gambit,
ridiculous.
man. I love all that stuff, and the reboot they did in 2013. It's actually one of my favorite movies, and that's the poster.
There you go. Now tell me, the other one I really like. So the original was Night of the Living Dead. Oh, and the Return of the Living Dead I loved, which like this punk rock soundtrack. And
Linnea Quigley was in it. Yeah.
And the classic, zombie going brains.
Oh yeah.
Oh, brains.
That's a fun movie.
God, it's so fun. Yeah. So, oh god. But what is the it was obviously not Night of the Living Dead. It was an 80s one, and it was set in, is it Day of the Dead or Dawn of the Dead? It was basically set where they were in a shopping mall.
Oh yeah, I forget which one it is.
Is it Day of the Dead?
It may be Days of the Dead. Day of the Dead. Yeah, I think you're right. Does it have Ving Rhames?
I think so. Yeah,
I remember that one. Yeah, that was fun too. They all run together. When you're 54 and seen 2,000 horror movies, they just all kind of blob together. Dude, I'll watch anything. I went and saw that fucking Winnie the Pooh horror movie the other night. My wife thought I was crazy for going to see that.
What? Such a thing exists?
Yeah. It's called Winnie. We'll see. It's something to do with the copyright has expired, so now it's public domain. So this guy made a low-budget horror movie that he released in theaters and has made a few $1 million on already, to be honest with you. But it's called Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and here I am giving it a free promo. But it is silly as all get out, but it's gory
because the footage is public domain now.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
Winnie
that's
the Pooh is public domain. So this big guy dressed in a Winnie the Pooh costume and another guy dressed in a piglet costume, and they're just murdering teenagers. So it's pretty funny.
It does sound funny.
Yeah. But yeah, my wife has zero interest in that kind of thing. She's like, "No, that's okay. That's all you, bud." I was like, "Okay."
Oh, well, okay.
Well, Dave, it has been awesome talking to you. What I want to do now is give you the floor to talk about anything that you have coming up, anything you want to discuss or plug, or where we can find you on social media, any of that, anything like that, and then I'll let the listeners in on a little extra bonus at the end.
Sure. Well, well, I thought it was funny in your promo for this. You showed a video of me sitting in the same room playing a song for Jamaican farmers. It cracked me up. I was like, of all the things that you decided to put up, that was it. Okay, fair enough. That's cool. Which there's a whole story about that too, which
Well,
involved
go ahead
my
and tell it if you got time. Go ahead and tell the
yeah,
story.
good time.
All right.
Okay, so my last name is Goodison, right? And my ancestor, I believe it was William Goodison. Um, he was a privateer, basically a sanctioned pirate. He had a letter of writ from the crown, and he used to run rum and sugar and stuff between the West Indies and Liverpool, which is where he had his family and his stuff. And apparently he made a lot of money, and so much so that when he died, he gifted his grounds to the city of Liverpool, which is now the home of Everton Football Club, which is my team, Everton. That's soccer club,
Right,
sorry.
right, right.
Anyway, but maybe that privateering life got a bit to it, but he also had a family in Jamaica. And with like a black Jamaican woman. So I have all these black Jamaican relatives
Nice.
who I have gone and stayed with, and they're involved in music and like one of my cousin, I call him like crazy. His name is Dwayne Goodison. I'm Dave Goodison, like same age and stuff.
Dwayne
Although he
Goodison.
is like 6'3", um,
Sounds like a good
and
book character. But go ahead.
yeah, and met all his family and stuff, and stayed with him. It was an amazing story, anyway. So yeah, that's kind of how that Jamaican connection came around. And his wife Dahlia was doing a course, and that part of it was I think it was during the pandemic. So I felt really good about doing it because Jamaica was under quite a big lockdown, and no tourists were coming in. And Jamaica, just most of their income is off tourism,
Right.
these days. But what they were trying to do is like there are all these farmers that grow food for the resorts and stuff, and so suddenly that market was gone, and so um, but stupidly enough, for some reason, there was no way to really get this excess food to the Jamaican people and stuff. So that's what they were trying to do. So, and that's what that song was. So Dali asked me to write a song as part of the presentation. So that's what I did.
Well, it was a good
So
song, but
it was very random. It was very random.
I took the screen capture from it. It was a good shot. So
No, thanks. Yeah. Well, sitting slightly different angle maybe back then. I don't
yeah, a
know.
little different.
But this is so but thanks for the chance to sort of say something. So this year I intend to I've never really released anything as myself, as a solo artist. It's always been as part of bands. So and I've been writing and recording music myself. So this is the year I'm actually going to actually get out there and actually sort of go, hey, this is me, sing, play all the instruments, blah 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 blah.
Awesome.
So that is what I'm going to do this year. Do I have any definitive dates or plans? Not really. But if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's GoodyGats. You can do that. I'll definitely be posting there.
Okay.
So like I said, no definitive plans, but I've got to get off my ass and just finish the stuff. I've got all these songs. It's funny. One of the things we talked about with I talked about with Steve and Rocco the other week. We had a studio space for a while with Joey, bass player, and we always called ourselves the Dirty Love after one of Gin's songs.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so the backing band was the Dirty Love. and well, the original kind of US band anyway. So we actually started recording together. We recorded a song. So one of the first song that I'm going to release is called "Carry On," and which I think you're going to play.
I am.
And that's recorded with Tito on drums, Rocco on keys, Joey on bass, and me doing the rest of it. So and all their beautiful voices needing backing vocals. So yeah, I'm lining that up. I love playing with those guys so much. So I want them to be a part of it. And so this year,
Awesome.
probably later in the year, I should have a if not an album, at least an EP to put out and stuff.
Okay.
So and
well, let us know. We'll definitely plug it. You know that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So yeah, Instagram Goody Gats, and yeah, I'll get it out there.
Oh, well, that would be awesome. And so speaking of Carry On, like Dave just mentioned, I will be playing that when we conclude our session of the podcast. So stay on, keep listening, because I'm going to play Carry On in its entirety, so you can check it out. And I appreciate Dave sending that track over to me. I've listened to it several times, and it's a really good song. So be proud of it. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Yeah, I am proud of it. Lyrics came from it was a dark place. The verses are pretty sort of in a dark place, but then that's why I countered it with a very positive chorus. So
right.
I think we can all relate to times like that. So yeah,
most definitely.
I'm proud of it. So hopefully people will get something from it. And yes, it's unreleased, so you've got an exclusive.
Yeah, an exclusive. That's right. I'm excited.
Right here
on Horror 421, the podcast. All right. Well, my name is Charles Campbell. I'm a small town horror author. You can find me on Facebook under Charles Campbell Author, Instagram, same thing, Charles Campbell Author. You can pick up my latest copy of Terror Tour. It's the latest novel I have released. It's a short read. It's not a super long read. It's almost a novella, but I still call it a novel. But you can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and I do have a Twitter account. I don't check it as often as I should. We also have a Horror 421, the podcast Facebook page, and you can check out my website at valleyboypublications.com. And one more time, we want to thank Dave Goodison for being a guest today. You were awesome. You're amazing, and I want everyone to hear you, and we will definitely have you back. So thank you, Dave.
Cheers to that. Thank
Cheers. You guys have a great day, night, and appreciate you listening to the podcast.
These hands are feeling cold. Is it time for hanging on, or time for letting go? I can't hear my voice. Seems I have no choice. There's a shadow on my soul. I can't find but I can't climb that high.
We hope you had a horrific time, lovelies. Thank you for tuning in to Horror 421, the podcast. Be sure to like us on YouTube and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.